Background
Okwabi.
music kò tí pop up background music kò tí wow.
Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Can you hear me loud and clear, sir? We're
Oh
live.
sure.
Okay, we're live. Just FYI. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Good to see you again. This is Sharp Edge News TV. Do us a favor. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. The FCT election fallout. Let's call it the FTC. Let me just make sure that we have the right image up here. All right, so the FTC fallout.
FCT.
The FCT election fallout, and the Wike referendum. Again, do me a favor, just hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications as you're coming in. We apologize, we're a little bit clumsy today, but we went live. I had a happy finger, but we're live, and that's a good thing. Okay, so just hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. So this is what we're talking about. The results are in for the FCT area council elections held this past Saturday, and the political tremors are being felt from Aso Rock to Port Harcourt. The APC has claimed victory in 3 councils, including the heavyweight Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC, while the PDP managed to hold onto Gwagwalada. That's that Gwagwalada from the song. Gwagwalada. Minister Nyesom Wike is already calling the outcome a referendum on President Tinubu's leadership, mockingly dismissing his critics as roadside corn buyers. However, the sharp edge isn't just the win, it's the cost. The EFCC reportedly arrested 20 suspects and recovered 17.2 million naira in cash for alleged vote buying, while APC congresses in places like Ethiopia West turned violent, with high-profile leaders narrowly escaping. Wike is beating his chest today, but with voters largely staying home in Kuje and beyond. Is this a victory for democracy or just a victory for the highest bidder? Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. We have a good show lined up for you today. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So again, the FCT election fallout and the Wike referendum. Chief, welcome back, sir. Good to see you, sir.
Good to be back with you, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our audience all over the world. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. So here's the question. Again, Wike is beating his chest today, but with all these voters largely staying home in Kuje, is this victory or this is just victory for the highest bidder? What's your take, sir?
Quite a mixed bag. Nyesom Wike, the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nigeria, cannot begin to look at this as a kind of victory. And if he does see it as such, we would remind him that this could be Pyrrhic victory. We have seen victories in elections, not just in Nigeria, but all over the world, particularly in the civilized world. And Nigeria aspires to be part of the civilized committee of nations. And so, if this is what victory looks like, I would also request that we can define to us what real villainy looks like as well. And nobody should look at this as an authentic victory. It is Pyrrhic victory for people who are certified master election riggers, such as you find in Nigeria. Now, I was doing some analysis earlier today with our one of our reporters in Nigeria, one of our senior correspondents, Tony Alege, and he was telling me that yes, if you check one side of the coin, it will appear as if there has been a paradigm shift, and that possibly Wike was able to get some people to reason with him, or that the Tinubu's administration was able to carry out with some permutations that really resulted in this victory, this seeming victory for the ruling party, All Progressives Congress, APC in Nigeria. And his analysis, number one, is that the native tribe around the Federal Capital Territory there, that is the people called the Gbagis or the Gwaris, that they are predominantly Christians, and that in the past, the skilled arrangement of things, the systemic capture by the Asa Fulani hegemony up north in Nigeria had cemented a situation such that successive leaderships in the Federal Capital Territory had always been predominantly Muslim settlers, Muslim minorities, dominating traditional ethnic, nationally, a traditionally ethnic Christian community, such as, the Gwaris that have Christians as their majority, and that such is the demographic reality of most North Central communities or tribes in Nigeria. And that even now, most of these communities are trying to secure their liberation, not wanting to be lumped together as a unitary North. That going forward, what is happening is that even starting from Wike himself, is about the first person who will be from southern Nigeria to be the Minister of Federal Capital Territory. Number two is about the first Christian to be the Minister of Federal Capital Territory. That, according to Tony Alege, that such a reality is what has been pushed there, such that the local tribe, the Gwaris and the Gwagis, have been empowered for the first time, and that probably what was against the opposition political parties such as Labour Party and ADC, African Democratic Congress, is their failure to really gauge the feeling of the residents of Abuja and the authentic indigenes of the different communities around the Federal Capital Territory to understand that the situation has shifted, and that the real natives wanted to call the shot, and that was what Nyesom Wike took advantage of, and probably the ruling APC bought into that. That is one angle to the whole thing. And then he said that in an unprecedented way, public infrastructural works really peaked under Nyesom Wike. But as against that, there have been complaints that Nyesom Wike's human relations, in terms of guaranteeing authentic or true dividends of democracy to people in the Federal Capital Territory, especially workers at FCDA, FCT, and the local councils. Those workers have always been snubbed by Nyesom Wike, and that was the essence of the face-off, the industrial face-off between government employees in the Federal Capital Territory and the minister recently. However, one thing that has been noticed is the fact that for anybody to want to describe what has just happened as an authentic victory for the ruling APC, then such a person would be ignoring the reality of the fact that increasingly Nigerians are not really enthusiastic about their democracy anymore. For so many people, the fact that systematic rigging was perpetrated by way of the fact that what's it called? Polling units were moved minutes or hours before the elections held. Some people learned so late the morning of that election on Saturday that their polling units had been moved from where they were, Iteto. That's one aspect. Another thing was the uh, political ambush unleashed on Abuja residents on the day of the, 24 hours to the election by the unilateral declaration of curfew by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Wike. That in itself was not constitutional. And then the cost of election in Nigeria, it almost looks like something different from what you and I know about elections in the United States. The fact that elections will be holding does not mean that there must be total shutdown of the economy and other activities. You go and do your voting, and then you can really make it like an ordinary exercise. It's something we take for granted in the United States. You go there, perform your civic duty, and then you leave. And then finally, I don't know if I still have enough time.
You have time.
Okay, for Wike, who made an appearance earlier today in Edo State in company of co-political travelers who may again become his bitter enemies, and because he easily picks quarrels and picks foes. But those who were really pouring accolades on him today, saying saying that they are still fixated on Obaseki, the former governor of Edo State, who'd been gone for some time, and the controversial senator from Edo North Senatorial District, former Labour leader in Nigeria and former governor of Edo State, and in person of Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, describing Wike as the man who'd been able to crush opposition in Abuja, and then describing him as the leader of the party that came second in that election. If there is no second in that election, what you find is an amorphous, laughable, if not ludicrous, and outrightly ridiculous contraption that was killed to give 5 of the seats of the council seats, including that of Amak, Kuje, Gwagwalada, and 3 others. So 5 was given to APC, and then 1 was considered to PDP, which they are now beginning to see like the opposition. But that is an opposition that in itself becomes really confusing, because elsewhere, PDP is not allowed to field candidates who could win or represent the authentic democratic aspirations of local communities of various states or local governments all over the country. But curiously, they are allowed to field the candidates whom INEC has now recognized. And then people coming on election day looking to vote, and then you see where there should be not less than 100 voters getting 9 people to vote, and then people are being coerced to vote for APC, and then some political parties completely having their names or emblems expunged completely from the system. So if anybody is calling this a victory for just a week or a referendum, I think this is a mock referendum. It's a mockery of what is called democracy. I hope Nigeria will not continue to receive like encroaching desert, will not continue to receive in its democratic aspirations. I think democracy is on the retreat, is under attack in Nigeria, and something must be done for the rescue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now, speaking of democracy being under attack, ladies and gentlemen, we have some other news coming to you from around the world. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. We'll be right back. Hold tight. Please hit the like button. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Supreme Court Tariff Guillotine. We have a Trump news here. A 6-3 knockout. The Supreme Court just struck down the president's signature economic weapon, and Trump is ashamed of his own justices. President Trump's second-term economic strategy has just hit a titanium wall. On Friday, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the president does not have the authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to bypass Congress and impose sweeping global tariffs. This decision effectively invalidates approximately $180 billion in tariffs already collected from China, Mexico, and Canada. In a fiery response on Sunday, Trump declared he was absolutely ashamed of certain justices and has already signed a new executive order today to try a different legal loophole. Meanwhile, over 1,500 companies are now lining up to sue for their money back. The president is also forcing coal plants to stay open while the courts are shutting its tariffs down. Is Trump losing his grip on the checks and balances of Washington? Or is he about to go to war with the judiciary? The sharp edge is yours, sir. I'm waiting for it.
Thank you so much. The deal is that what we are witnessing is the system that had its back pinned to the wall, doing everything possible to really be on a strong footing. And this is why it is always good to encourage the process of nation building that puts prebendalism and mendacity and all forms of corruption and fraud and gangsterism goes around cloned or cloaked as statesmanship. This is what is happening here. It's the system that is really pushing back now, and there is checks and balances with the built-in checks and balances within the system that is running back to life. And then, as a corollary to the principle of checks and balances, you find the separation of powers, the principle of co-equal status of the three arms of government, being able to put somebody who is really obsessed with a strongman vision of leadership, which is nothing other than dictatorship and totalitarian hold on power. That is what is being really put to check within the American system, and that is a teachable moment for individuals like Wike in Nigeria and others who have this twisted or perverse view of leadership as something that could just make anybody run amok and then decide to rig an entire system and make it a one-man show. So what is happening here is that the Supreme Court, including two of Mr. Donald Trump's appointees to that august bench, what you find out is that they are taking a decision, and that decision was written actually by Justice John Roberts of the Supreme Court, that is the Chief Judge of the United States, who himself is a card-carrying member of the Republican Party, now letting Donald Trump, it was this same court that ruled months back that Donald Trump could exercise some powers that may not be really bridled, or that could not be questioned while reigning as the president of the United States. And that had given an enamored Donald Trump to do all kinds of stuff. And so when you find this kind of tariff guillotine that Donald Trump was going to wield arbitrarily against anybody, any country, and in the final analysis, we as American citizens were the ones picking the the bills in the at the end of the whole show, not I mean, I'm surprised to hear that maybe China or one country or the other were the ones who had been paying. If you check the list of the more than 1,500 American corporate organizations or blue chip companies waiting to for a refund out of the $180 billion or more that have been realized since all this confusing tariff regime was unleashed on Americans, you would understand that they are mostly American companies. So all these things going on is really showing that Mr. Donald Trump just has very demonstrable, little demonstrable clue in terms of a fiscal regime that a country should run in order to be able to really make the economy solvent. So he's trying another trick in the bag. He's looking at a loophole, so to say, whereby he could again impose 15% tariff on everybody, everywhere, but trust the American system. That system that has now ruled that it is unjustifiable, injusticiable, and unconstitutional for him to do all that without the input or express approval of the Congress. Would also be waiting because people, several people would now be lining up to really have their pound of flesh and to put this principle, whether it's by executive order or whatever, to want to put it to the test. I think he does some of these things as theatrics to just divert attention from the real thing. And from what has been proven repeatedly, when he does this, whether he's attacking judges on the Supreme Court bench or is saying stuff about some congressmen or women, or is attacking the media, what people must pay attention to is the undercurrent. What is the shadow? What is the substance? And in this case, could it be a case of some high-level fraud or corruption that is being that somebody is trying to hide from this watchful eye of the public, particularly the press? For example, last week, some countries were arranged together and then they called themselves whatever, where people would drop 1 billion. Where each country would drop $1 billion each to have access to a piece of the action at, on the disputed territory, Palestinian territory in the Middle East. Israel signed up. Russia, pulled back. I think China too, and then several European countries will not be part of it. But you find all these all these mushroom Arab nations like Qatar and so on, falling over themselves, and then Donald Trump making himself the chairman of the board of this nebulous organization, which they said will rebuild Gaza. So, when you look at that kind of thing happening simultaneously with the ruling of the Supreme Court, you see, the Yorubas in our native country, Nigeria, would say, "One gilowo, one boruka." Just as you're trying to douse the tension that he creates at one end, you see him popping up with more troubles elsewhere. Who does that other than Mr. Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States of America? Meanwhile, the real issues are there. People will put to test, will put to, will put on the ballot during the midterm elections issues of the avoidable, reckless state-sanctioned execution of innocent American citizens in the name of enforcement of immigration rules in Minnesota and elsewhere. You would see other issues being put on the ballot just to make sure that are Americans comfortable with what Mr. Donald Trump has been doing so far, whether we also like it concerning our grocery bills that is always on the rise, and other things that should be of more importance to the state, other than the diversions and distractions that we witness every day. And then how people cannot even sleep with their eyes closed without somebody in the name of law and order coming to harass him or her. All these things are the issues that are real. And then the posturing of the United States, is it as a good example to the rest of the world or not? One more fact, one more point before we leave this subject, Ola, and that is the fact of what America continues to project in terms of soft power all over the world. The harassment coming from this tariff guillotine continues to be of concern to every reasonable person, anybody that is an internationalist, that is a careful watcher of the trends and emerging situations all over the world. I think things like that ought to be put to check. And then Donald Trump, in all seriousness, shouldn't have started what he could not finish. And now it's been taunted in some places like Nigeria, where you have spikes in attacks on several communities all over the country since American troops arrived to superintend the enforcement of the war against terror, against kidnap, against banditry, and what have you, all over Nigeria. So there are enough stuff on the plate in terms of leadership around the world for Mr. Donald Trump than getting himself distracted. Because if he thinks it's distracting American citizens, he might end up really being the one that is distracting himself from the real issues of leadership and governance, not just in the United States, but elsewhere where he has decided to poke his finger outside there in the international community, say Venezuela, Cuba, and other places. And then the build-up in Iran and the disturbing situation in which Russia is saying it could really take sides with Iran if America decides to attack. But that's a bluff on the part of Vladimir Putin anyway. I do not think that he has the temerity. I do not think that they would be so audacious to stand the attack machine of the United States of. And don't forget, elsewhere, Russia would always say those things. But when America takes action, Russia backs up. So what I'm saying in essence is that we need a world in which the contending issues over nuclear armament will not lead to assured mutual destruction that has always been feared, even during the Cold War years, during the existence of a USSR that metamorphosed to Russia, the present day Russia. So what we are saying here is that Mr. Donald Trump should work with what the system guarantees instead of stressing himself too much. Because at the end of the day, if the system continues to kick in the way it's been going, Supreme Court putting it to check, the Congress acting as it ought to, not the one that is really cowed into silence right now, I think he will find out that all these efforts at imposing avoidable tariffs, going after issues that are not of essence, would just be futile and wasted effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The sad part about this whole thing, I think we'll speak about that in our special, is, we could say, okay, it's a system, right? That he's not going to get away, that time is counting down, he will leave the office. But every time you keep pushing against, it's going to cost us something. It's going to, in the long run, it's going to, yes,
much damage would have been done.
Yes. True. Yeah, so it's not as simple as counting down for him to leave. He needs to, he really needs to stop and really take proper assessments before making some of this. I guess he would call it, he's being, it's risque, right? So, but I don't think it's that. I think it's going to cost us and our children so much You know,
It
so
is true. It is
yeah.
true. Yeah.
All right, hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications, join the conversations, please. In the comment section, we would like to hear from you. Join the conversation, and we have some other trendy stories around the world. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. All right, so we do have a story here from the I don't know what's going on in Nigeria. I mean, over the weekend, there's a lot of news around Kwara, but today we're talking about the Zamfara massacre and the lack of roads excuse. So they're saying 38 dead, dozens abducted, and a police force that says they couldn't find the road. How long can northern Nigeria survive on excuses? While politicians are celebrating election wins in Abuja, a tragedy is unfolding in the north. Police in Zamfara state confirmed today that 38 people were slaughtered in an attack on the Tongan Dusty community last Thursday. Most chillingly, the police admitted they received intelligence before the attack but couldn't reach the village because of lack of road access. This comes as the African Union issued a rare, blistering condemnation of the rising abductions of women and children in the region. Even with U.S. troops, as you just mentioned, now on the ground in an advisory role, the killings are accelerating, with another 33 people lost in Kebbi just days prior. So you've heard every security excuses in the books, I'm sure, in the last 15, 20, 25 years. If the police can't find the road to save 38 lives, what exactly is the purpose of the billions being spent on security? Just take it away, sir, because I'm tired, you know. Now,
we all can be tired, and the truth of the matter is that whether you reading, in real time, the unfolding issues, the developing news in Nigeria concerning terrorism, or you trying to study past world literature about that country, and then the body of reports that exist on that country, some of which are unreliable anyway, you must give it to the troops, the soldiers in Nigeria, for working against all odds, because it has, it's a situation that has been hijacked by crisis merchants and all kinds of hawkish characters who make sure that equipment and adequate personnel do not get deployed in real time to contain the what's it called? The deadly attacks from all these forces that have massed against Nigeria, whether you're talking of ISWAB, you're talking of ISIS, you're talking of the one they call the Laku whatever. Is it Lakuregbe or whatever they are called? And then you're talking of kidnappers and bandits, all of them working together, and other violent characters all over Nigeria. It's a situation that has overwhelmed the country, but give it to honest, dedicated soldiers. For example, we were trying to study the situation in Kogi State lately. How, I don't want to talk too much about what I know to be an ongoing defense strategy there. But like you said, the amount of energy that is devoted to all kinds of political shenanigans in the name of politics in Nigeria really takes attention away from the serious murderous conduct of all these terrorists all over northern Nigeria. And it's going to get to a point in which other parts of Nigeria will begin to interpret this as a strategy designed by some elements up north to make sure that authoritative allocation of values and resources become very difficult all over the country. What do I mean by this? It will be seen as another strategy, a poor strategy for that matter, and a disturbing one that the North want, or some elements up north want this crisis up there, the internal terrorism situation, to continue, such that other resources that should have also, by way of equity, go to other geopolitical zones of the country, will not be available to those that need them the most. So in this case, the nation is bogged down. The sneaky attackers, the people I would describe as being not really brave. I mean, these are sneaky, evil people who just want to pretend as if they are courageous, what's it called? Dedicated people on certain ideologies and causes, and which has never been made clear to the country. They just want to waste people, they want to kill. And so if they have done this again in a place like Zamfara this past weekend, don't forget that Zamfara has always been fingered as a place where not just bandits and terrorists, where they really find some grants to dig in. It's a place where all kinds of foreign actors come in to exploit the mineral resources in that part of Nigeria, including gold and all kinds of other precious rare earth minerals. That is where they dig in. That is where they stay, and they command their non-state actors, people that are extremely violent, harmed to the teeth. And it's so disturbing that Nigeria, that can hardly contain all these evil people, would make it difficult for the average family or average household or the active men and women in the community to harm themselves for self-defense. They make it so impossible, and the state is not able to deliver on that. And I think there is no worse recipe for an all-out crisis or war or violence in that country at some point. Because how do you continue to hit one person on one side of the cheek and he continues to turn the other over and over, and then you do not stop? The Lakurawas, or whatever they call them, they are not even indigenous to Nigeria. Most of the violent Fulani terrorists who go around as headsmen are not even people with any traceable native address within Nigeria. And everybody is put on the alert. Everybody has the blood pressure so high, just because you never know when they will visit your community. I know where is safe in Nigeria anymore. I mean, look at the situation in Agamo, Akure North local government, only recently. Not just in Kwara State, not just even in Ibadan, around Ibadan. An old woman was raped and killed. A woman who had virtually nothing, she was raped and killed, wasted just like that. And this is the situation in most communities in Nigeria today. Not just in Kwara, not just in Zamfara, not just in, on the plateau, not just in Kogi. Everywhere you find these people. And what are they trying to do? They are trying to taunt the government. They are trying to make a point that, oh, in spite of the fact that American personnel are within the country now, America is doing this or doing that to support the government to make sure that the terrorists are defeated. No. And I think it is a dangerous game, because if America decides to go the full hog, you can stake a bet on that there will be several casualties. Some communities will be panded will be panded till kingdom come. So everybody's got to really work towards this, and government should stop being in denial, sponsoring all kinds of arguments and all kinds of persons, as if these terrorists work on behalf of the Nigerian state. That is all wrong, and it is a really bad reward system, and I think it is a discouragement to the gallant soldiers, policemen, the forest guards, and all kinds of uniformed personnel working in the theater of war to defeat terror in Nigeria. So the government must know what this is about, and individual Nigerians too must do everything possible to support the troops, and America must also give unqualified assistance to that country to make sure that equipment and proper orientation is given, like being able to cultivate the trust of Nigerian citizens. For example, this election that was held in the FCT, where all kinds of stuff were done to make citizens feel less relevant or less important in the value chain of governance. Those things must be addressed and must stop, because when you do that, you also disrupt the natural flow of intelligence that should help in securing peace and stability in a country. Actionable intelligence that should be volunteered to the forces that are on the side of the state will be kept at will be kept away from the state, and because citizens cannot trust the system. They do not know if they volunteer information, if that would also lead to being used against them. See, for example, the one that happened in Kwara State the other day. Intelligence came in good time, and it was passed on to state actors. At the end of the day, nothing was done. Even when military operatives were deployed to that community, they were withdrawn ahead of the attack. It happened not just in Kwara State. It happened in some other places all over Nigeria, where military personnel were deployed. Shortly before the coming of a terrorist or kidnappers, such security people were stepped down. They were removed from the community, and then the terrorists had easy right to town. Things like this must stop. So that said, everybody would expect that Nigerian military, yes, even as we celebrate them, as we encourage them, we know they are giving their best, but in the circumstance, corruption and fraud in government, in the leadership of the country, or amongst the top echelon of the military, the command top within the system, is really making the prosecution of this war against terrorists to be an Herculean task. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Do me a favor, hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications, and please leave your comment. Let's join the conversation. Want to know your thoughts. What are your ideas in terms of improving security in Nigeria? Honestly, nothing else. If they don't have security under control, nothing else is going to be all right. That's just a simple fact. But we'll talk more about that. Hit the like button. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. We've had the hard news. Now let's get a sharper edge on the conversation. Joining us for our dialogue is the man himself, our publisher, editor-in-chief, High Chief Oladimeji Abitogun. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Good to be back.
What can we learn today from this this news material today. What should we work? Because we have, again, with Trump, we're dealing with systems, right? I think even in talking about security now, we're still dealing with systems.
Yes, even yes, Wike and the
the democracy.
In
exactly.
Abuja.
So
local council election.
Exactly.
Yes.
And earlier today, I was looking at some stuff about immigration. Immigration here in the United States is also, especially for immigrants or family of immigrants, is a tough call. I mean, we have people that have green cards that are actually afraid of traveling. Because we have people with green card that are being picked up from their homes without proper, So we have so many unpredictable stuff going on with the system right now. What's your take overall with regards to the world system as a whole? It looks like there's a shift going on and people are just confused in general.
I agree with you if you say that. I mean, if you wonder if a shift is going on, and I would say it's an extreme and radical shift, completely unknown to this world before now. And it's a world that allowed its freedom and liberty to slip away because we all, no single exception, including you, we took our eyes off the prize. And so, which ought to be eternal vigilance. So because we all allowed for all these kind of things to happen through our democratic choices, whether in America or Nigeria, Somalia, wherever, all over the world, this is what we have to pay. You don't even know what is normal anymore. The new normal becomes extremely a kind of anomaly. Now, before I delve into that deeply, let me first congratulate the governor of Ondo State in Nigeria, Southwest Nigeria, and in person of Lucky Orimisanye, that I think is marking his first year anniversary in office. But that celebration would not be worth the while unless what is necessary for the happiness of the people, or what is necessary in the pursuit of that happiness by the citizens. If those things are not worked on, if they are not guaranteed. Yes, the governor, like we reportedly put it the other day, had oiled up the operational machine of infrastructural development by the government that it presides over. But it was slow to that start. Then, outside what is going on in Akure, the state capital now, belatedly though, what else is going on in other communities outside Akure? And then what is being done on the promises of, successive administration since I was a toddler in that part of Nigeria before coming over to the United States. I've always promised, we would deliver on bitumen exploitation, and then we would deliver on this, we would deliver on that. And then the so-called deep sea thing along the coastal line, the longest coastal line, by the way, in Nigeria, which is over 70-something kilometers, which constitutes the coastal portion of Ondo State. What is happening there? Somebody would expect that there will be refineries and all kinds of stuff around that axis now to be where the economy takes shape. But talking of extending development to the rural communities and other places in Ondo State, it's coming at this cry, this appeal is coming at a time when a major tragedy was recorded. This last week, I think it was on Wednesday, the monarch of a landlocked community, because until now, nobody remembered the people of Agamo. in Accra North local government. You know, it's the popular Ace radio broadcaster that is known as Obani Nileodu, Obaluleodu, Kole Bankole Oyeniyi, that made Agamo popular. Agamo is a community that nobody loves to go. No visible government presence there until Oba Jacob Kende Falodun came on the throne about 34 years ago. And that is one Oba that some bandits, we do not know who they are. They could be assassins, they could be contract killers, they could be all kinds of terrorists that invaded that community last week, like something we often see in Nollywood movies in Nigeria. Those people came and they decided to unleash terror on the community. You know, after several gunshots, you're talking of a real war situation there, and none of those things were able to, none of those pellets were able to, was able to penetrate the king, the king of that community, that is Oba Jacob Kende Falodun, who has now been murdered in cold blood by the assassins. You know, they eventually dragged him. Because of time, the details would have been supplied. But we do not also want to do anything that would in any way impede ongoing investigations into the circumstance or the people that perpetrated that crime. But what we're saying is that Governor Yedatiwa should pay attention to rural development. That was something that was initiated in a very strong way by the former administration of Olusegun Abdurrahman Mimiko. You know, he tried unleashing hitherto unknown level of development in different rural communities in Ondo State. And that is the same thing you find with that community that was attacked by terrorists in the Lakurawa people in Zamfara State. The police said they had intelligence ahead of that attack on the community in the north, but they had no access to the community. Anybody going to Agamo that was famously praised as Agamo, you know, there is no passable road to that community. It was this same, murdered king that was driving that development by himself. Making sure that he brought people together. It became somebody that was reconciling people, mediating situations to make sure that there was peace and harmony. But this is where we must caution ourselves as media owners and operatives, as people who are using the platforms of our various media organizations to project people. I think too much was hyped about the late Oba Jacob Kende Falodun when he was alive. People, if he had such a if he had huge magical powers and capabilities, I don't think the way some people were always hyping him on the radio, talking about his immense spiritual capabilities and endowments. I would not think that they did him much justice the way they overhyped that. And we Yoruba people, we talk too much, and that is unlike us, because whether you are going to study the lives of African people of African descent in the diaspora who planned strategies on how to gain freedom, on how to win battles, they will keep quiet for months, years, will be taking in so much suffering, and then they will be developing strategies that will ultimately lead to their triumph and victory. That is one thing that was lacking in the way the late Oba Jacob Kende Falodun was exposed, such that he now became, because several attempts were made to kill him that day. He demonstrated that he was an authentic hero, but because the secrets of his power, which became a major tragic flaw in the situation, the whole crisis, had too much over the radio over time. And if all these magical feats actually work, how come they were not deployed against those who subjugated Africa as a continent over time? And because in the final analysis, what happened? What subdued Africa? What subjugated us?
Yes, exactly. For how long are we going to keep counting on that? or even referencing it at all?
Yes, instead of us equipping our research institutions, our universities, our military formations, let there be that thing. Instead of wasting time on people that can be off, people who can disappear through whatever, people who can call people and get people's blood.
Yeah, because if we cannot secure the average citizen, it is just useless.
This is the thing.
Yeah, so it's nobody is saying they don't exist, but what's the use?
But why dignify? And really, people say, "Oh, Oladimeji Abitogun, you are a traditional chief. Why do you talk like this? Why should I be celebrating what is not really working for my people? What I know may not work for me." Because look at this situation. They said bullets could not penetrate the king's body. You drop.
Let me ask you, sir. Am I supposed to be?
Wait. At the end of the day, they smashed the king's head with cordials and all kinds of hard objects, and then they were able to kill him.
I promise. I promise, sir. I'm not trying to be condescending or anything to the people that are making those comments. But am I supposed to be impressed by the fact that bullets could not enter his body? I mean, what was that? Or it was just news material?
Yeah, it's all. I mean, part of those narratives that the oppressors of Africa or Africans would describe as African mumbo jumbo. So all these sorts of yes. If you expose yourself too much, for example, when the last time I was home doing my royal duties, the moment I got intelligence of people were coming to kill me, I took off.
Exactly, you secured yourself, sir, because and you have the right to do that.
Somebody was telling me, a government high official was telling me, Ola, that so you mean you don't belong in some organization now? You mean you have not been cooked up to really withstand whatever? I said, what is this one talking about? That thing they gave to you that they claim would prevent whatever attack on you. Have you put it to the test that the thing really worked for you?
Oh my shield.
And then, yes, why would you even want to do that when you know that to even try to test that out will be that you may be getting the end result while in the grave. I don't. Let
me end with this. Then I have one question for you to end the show, sir. You see, any systems, we're talking security systems now, right? That we cannot refine over time. Guess what? It's only a matter of time before the adversaries find its secret
let me
and breach it.
Let me bust your bubble.
No matter how strong the security is, if it's stagnant in nature and we cannot continue to improve on it, it's only a matter of time.
Let me bust your bubble a little. These things have been put to test over and over. It's almost like you finding all kinds of charlatans and riffraffs trying to sell you snake oil in the United States here. During the Nigerian Civil War, instead, in place of the initial blistering overrun of places like Asaba, Bini, all the way to Ore, you know why Bini suffered a setback and the federal troops were able to overpower that place? Go and read a book by the late Professor Festus Iyayi. Heroes. You will find there. While people were celebrating sorcery, magic, whatever, you wear this amulet, bullets will not be able to penetrate you. Those were the things they were selling to themselves until the federal troops came back and then reclaimed Benin. So if it did not work during the Nigerian Civil War, who told them that it would be working in this time and age? Instead of each community to really get fascinated about bringing together their blacksmiths and whatever, improve. The government says you cannot carry AK-47, but there are other versions of those things that can be worked on in Nigeria, and then communities will be secured.
Of course, at least you have, at least you need certified security personnel that can carry AK-47. If an average person cannot carry it, if your enemies have access to those tools, you better have a system in place to defend yourself.
Yes, and one final thing. Nigerians and the Nigerian government, the leadership in Nigeria should stop playing the ostrich game. So it's almost like they are just holding everybody tied down, pinned down like hogs. You know, you've taken the balls out of this swine, this male swine, and it's waiting to die. What is that supposed to mean? Let the people engage these terrorists the way they should be able to do the best. I'm not advocating violence. I deplore war. But in this case, overrunning the entire community, killing and this thing is deliberate. You go after Yoruba kings, Yoruba chiefs, and then you will be able to humiliate them. And the government in Nigeria is buying to that agenda. I think that is evil, that is satanic. Nobody should look at us as people who are advocating violence or whatever. But like they say in Nigeria, you must use madness to cure madness. I think the agenda of all these people who want to really subjugate others is just egregious, and it is really satanic, and it must be halted. And that is why I'm still unyielding in my advocacy that the United States government must do everything possible to really destroy the myth being promoted by certain elements up north that they are superior. They are not superior to anybody. In fact, if anything, I think they are just plain stupid.
Anyway, so I have a challenge for you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you one statement, and the challenge is that you have to give one statement response, and then we end the show. So in support, Sheyi Law is trending today in support of President Bola Tinubu, and this might be a paraphrase from one of the blogs. It says Nigeria is safer now than 10 years ago. Your response in one statement, sir.
I think it's just being sarcastic.
All right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, please hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications. This was a good show. Please help us share. Hopefully you've been enlightened, educated. We'll see you back here very, very soon. Take care. God bless.